Welcome back, everybody, to Excuse the Interjection. I'm here with Gary, Gill, and Brendan Williams. The last book we read in our book club was Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Now I have a few questions for you two boys. Gary and Brendan, what did you think of the relationship between George and Lenny?
Well, first of all, I thought it was very hard to understand because you have to follow the book very closely, and honestly, I have been in situations where it's like that, and it's kind of hard to deal with someone that is handicapped.
Yeah, well, I think that it was just like you said, it was hard to understand because, you know, Lenny, like, George really cares for Lenny and he's like good friends with him and he protects him and everything, but it's hard to always be so nice to someone who gets you in so much trouble because Lenny has been, you know, accused of rape for touching that girl's dress because he likes to touch soft things and whatnot. So it's hard to really always be happy with someone, but, you know, in the end, and you can tell in the book, George is always looking out for Lenny and cares about his feelings.
If I may interject, what do you think, what type of impact does George have on Lenny if he treats him nicely but at the same time can be that harsh type of authoritative person that doesn't really care for feelings much? What do you think that could do to Lenny?
I think it's tough love. I think he's trying to show him that you can't be, you know, always nice. You have to be strong sometimes, and he has to teach him what's right and what's wrong, and the only way he can do that is by being a little mean sometimes.
But the way George does it is he patronizes him. He tells him, you know, you're stupid, you're worthless, like you make everything wrong in my life. You don't think that could have any adverse effect on Lenny at all?
Yeah, I agree with you because Lenny isn't like completely stable as like when he was in that fight with Curly, right? Like, he had to wait for George to tell him, like, yeah, now I can hit him. Which kind of makes me wonder, like, is Lenny going to be okay by himself? Like, what happens if something happens to George? Would Lenny be okay?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to show him what the real world's like, because he knows that Curly's going to beat on him and stuff, and he's just trying to show him that if Curly does talk to him like that and calls him worthless and stupid or whatever, he's got to be able to take it like a man, as if say, like, he's got to be strong. Got to be determined.
No, but isn't it like, say if you were beating me up, would I not just punch you right away, like right away again?
Yeah, but Lenny doesn't know that because he's.
Why does he not know that?
Because he's mentally challenged. He thinks that everyone's.
No, he's handicapped.
No, but he thinks that everyone's nice and good. He thinks that the world is like, you know.
But how far in life can you get when you think of that?
Not very far. That's why George has to teach him that.
Let me ask you both a question. Where do you think Lenny would be if he didn't have George with him all the time?
Probably in a ditch.
He would either be dead or he'd be in serious trouble or he would be alone. He wouldn't go far, that's for sure.
Okay. Unless he's walking.
Okay.
Moving on. Symbols in the book. What do you think about George being a symbol of authority?
I agree. I think that
it makes a lot of sense.
He clearly is an authority figure because he decides what they're gonna do and he decides what's right and wrong. He doesn't let Lenny make any of the decisions for obvious reasons, so I agree with it.
I kind of disagree there. He could be a symbol of being rude because, like, he's not smart himself, in my opinion, but he's not like authority. He's just controlling. Like, he just has to have everything his way. But
sometimes to be a symbol of authority, you have to be controlling.
Yeah, but like there's a line, and I think he passes it. Like when he has control over Lenny to say like, yeah, now you can hit him, but like that has nothing. Or Lenny just struggles by himself, and it just seems like he's just rude and controlling, and not authority.
Well, I think we're both right. I think he is. He does go too far sometimes, but I think he has the right intentions, and it's just sometimes he pushes the envelope, but for good reasons. So I think we're both right.
What about Lenny being a symbol of simplicity?
I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I think he is very simple, and it's obvious that he's never gonna wow you with anything.
There's not really much surprises in the book about Lenny.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
He's like the average person that like has struggles and everything. Like he's not really good at anything, but he's not really bad at anything as well.
Yeah.
Slim being the symbol of being respectful.
I agree, because even though Lenny is mentally challenged,
He understands his situation.
and that's why he gave him the puppy. Even though he might kill it, which he ended up doing, he still...
But that's a risk Slim took because he knew what Lenny was like.
Yeah, he treated him as if he was anyone else. Unfortunately, what he thought was going to happen, Lenny killing the dog, happened, but...
Yeah. I like
that's a risk Slim took, and
yeah, but I like Slim because like he's one of those characters that you can just connect with. Like he's the typical, like, how would you say, like mother figure, right? Or like the mother, like nice and warm. He's like easy to be with. He isn't rude. He's not mean. He's not like a jerk like Curly, right?
Yeah.
So he's easy. So a respectful character really plays good with him.
Moving on to Curly being a symbol of jealousy.
I think that's true. I think he's like, because he's so small and he's like, he doesn't like big guys. He's trying to like compensate for that by being like mean and like.
He's abusing the power he has.
Yeah, he's like every guy like that drives a Hummer is like Curly, in my opinion.
It's like
that. Yeah, that's a good example because
he's not strong, so he's trying to compensate for that by like trying to act tougher just because he isn't stronger than Lenny.
I don't think
physically.
Like it's not also the physical part. It's about his wife too. Like how his wife like isn't always around with him. How they're not together like as much as they should be as wife and husband.
That could have a very
That's what I think like really plays a jealousy key because like in the book many times Curly's wife is like in the barn with the guys without Curly.
Yeah. I think that's good.
Moving on to the mice and the dog being a symbol of Lenny's fate in the end of the book.
I think that one's self-explanatory too. It's obviously that is what they symbolize because Lenny ends up dying like just like they did, and it's kind of the same way too. He dies so simply without even knowing it because it's not like the dogs and the mice know they're gonna die. They just die suddenly because Lenny kind of freaks out and just like snaps their neck or whatever and just kills them. And it's the same thing with Lenny. He doesn't know he's gonna die, but George just shoots him like for his own good, so he dies peacefully.
Moving off topic a little bit, do you think that was a good example of foreshadowing in the book? Did that give you any idea that Lenny was gonna die at the end of the novel?
Well, in the beginning when he found the dead mouse, and it was like the mouse was like simple, right? It was nice and soft. It wasn't really complex. And then like it just resembled Lenny, but when the puppy died, like when he killed the puppy, it like you can see him like being killed. Like I just pictured Lenny being killed.
I wasn't sure if it was gonna happen. I thought they were just gonna get run out of town again, but then like when the mouse died, I thought that just showed that he like saw things, but then once the puppy died, I kind of figured that he was gonna die because it was like a pattern. And I thought that he was going to join that pattern, so.
The river being a symbol of home to Lenny and George.
Yeah, that was a very good placement by the author, like how he interpreted it, the river in the beginning, and then how George, like, how would I say it, he like made it seem like that was going to be a place that would come back to if Lenny got in trouble, and it just seemed to be the place that he dies.
Yeah, I think it was the same thing. I think the river was definitely like, even if it wasn't their home, it was like their go-to spot. Like when they needed
to place of like sanctuary and safety to them.
Yeah, almost. Like when they needed to relax or when they really needed to just get away from it all. Like that's where they went, which I guess you can call home because that's like what home is like.
That's the feeling you should have inside your own home. So it does make sense that being a symbol of it.
Yeah.
The ranch being a symbol of acceptance.
Yeah, I could see that because George tried to get jobs in many places before and he was unlucky because of Lenny. And it seemed like this one ranch accepted him. Even though how far they had to travel to get to it, it seemed like this was the place they were meant to be.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Everyone there seemed like it didn't matter who you were or what your situation was, they would bring you in. So I think it definitely was acceptance because they had, Crook, who was black, who like in that time was the same thing. They're not like they weren't accepted, but he's there too. It's really like diverse at the ranch, so I think it is acceptance.
Moving on to theme. What about the theme? We have a plan never comes together, but are there any different ideas that either of you have?
I think it's how quickly things can change because, like, it was looking good for Lenny and George, and it looked like their dream of, you know, getting the ranch or whatever would actually happen. And then just like that, Lenny accidentally kills Curly's wife, and just like that, things change, and he goes from here to here. Now they're struggling just to, you know, like, survive, because like Lenny's gonna be in a lot of trouble soon.
I think it was like, the theme could be like, don't judge a book by its cover. Because like, how everyone in the beginning of the book when they saw Lenny was like, oh, he's soft, he's nice, he's not gonna hurt anyone. And then it just seemed like he killed the puppy and he killed Curly's wife, which was huge, and which led to his death. So I just think big guys aren't always as judgmental as you can like portray them.
Yeah.
What were your ideas of the theme when the book began? What did you think? I'm pretty sure you didn't expect Lenny to kill anybody in the end of the book. You didn't expect, you know, like their next ranch manager to be so accepting of him. What were your initial thoughts of the book?
Well, like Brendan first said, I thought it was like, as like the book went on, they were saying how like unlucky they were, how Lenny was kicked out of the first town, Weed, and then in the second, or like as the further it went on, it just seemed like Lenny was gonna be kicked out. I'd never thought he'd kill anyone.
I thought originally when it just said that they were like two friends who were like trying to get by with money, I thought it was just gonna be a story about like them becoming successful and becoming like famous. Like I thought they were gonna start off poor and like start to get some luck and then become like rich at the end of the book. But like I definitely did not think that it was gonna end like that. That someone was gonna die, especially Curly's wife. That was like the last person I had expected to die. I thought it was gonna be like Slim or George or someone really shocking like that. I didn't expect Curly's wife.
They also mentioned that ranch so much, like how their dream was to get the ranch, like by themselves, and it seemed like such a big part of the book because they were gonna get Candy the Swamper in it too, and then they were gonna get Crooks involved as well.
That seemed like a really large, almost foreshadowing, but that never happened.
Yeah.
The author sort of tricks you in that aspect.
Yeah.
How big a part of the novel do you think setting was? How important was that to the novel?
I think that explained a lot, because where they were, like, kind of was like the atmosphere and like the feelings they were like the feelings they felt were shown through like the setting. Like if they were at the river, you know that they were either happy or trying to be calm. If they were at like the ranch, they were like with each other and they were happy. And then if they were with Curly in like a barn or something, you could tell that they were like mad or nervous or something because of Curly was in the room.
I thought the setting wasn't that important to me because everything it seemed to be based on was the ranch, the river, and the field that they worked in. There was no like time like shown, like what year it was or anything.
Well, it's not just about time. It's about the things around them. You know, the river is just it's the symbols that and the feelings that they associate in the book with those two characters.
Yeah, but it had like the certain time like where it would go, where it seemed like it's in our time age, and then it's in like say 1959 where they would call Crooks the N-word, or like how they would go down to the barn, and then how they would go down to town or downtown. It would just seem like something we would do, like as in modern age.
Final thoughts on the book?
I liked it. It was surprising. I thought it was going to be pretty dull and just like I didn't think there was going to be a scene where I would be surprised, but there was a few. I didn't think Curly's wife was going to be killed. I definitely didn't think Lenny was going to be shot by George.
I have to agree with you. The book was surprisingly interesting. When I first picked up the book, I read the first couple of pages, and I was almost forcing myself to stay on task reading in class because that was really hard to do.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get into it, you start understanding the characters, the setting, what they've been through, and all of that. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. This is a book that you can't really put down for me because, like, once you start with it, like, you get introduced to characters, you want to know what happens, and you keep reading and reading, and then you just found out the ending, which was pretty amazing to me.
So thanks everybody for joining us on our conversation of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This has been Gary Gill, Brendan Williams, and Drae Azak on Excuse the Interjection. Thank you.